Hello ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Voiles here, and I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to retouch eyes on a portrait. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see here, I'm in our folder, our resource folder, and I'm going to click on Chris Hemsworth. And this is the picture that we will be using for today. So you're just going to click on the Chris Hemsworth JPEG. So you're going to right click and choose Save Image As, and we're going to save that to our downloads page. And now that that is in our downloads, we can open that up in our Finder, and there is our Chris Hemsworth picture. So now what I'm going to do is open up Photoshop, and let's go and open up Photoshop real quick. And then all you have to do is drag and drop your picture that you downloaded into Photoshop. You don't actually have to create a brand new project or anything like that. Don't have to click on any of that. For something real quick and easy, we can just drag and drop the picture in and let Photoshop open it at its native file size. So what we're going to want to do is zoom in. That's the first thing. So we're going to go to our magnifying glass over here on the side, and I'm just going to plus in so I can see what I'm doing here. You can see the picture is a little pixelated. It wasn't the highest quality, but don't worry about that. We're just going to use this for practice. Okay, so I'm zoomed in here. I want to go to my layer, and I want to make a duplicate. So that's the first thing you should always do. And guys, this will probably be part of the grade from now on. So for today's assignment, I want you to actually send me a screenshot and show me your layers on the side as well. Okay, so we talked a little bit in the lesson before the video about the dodge tool. So the dodge tool is right over here on your toolbar, and it's kind of hidden sometimes, so you have to click and hold. And sometimes your computer will be by default selected on the burn tool, so just click and hold on the burn tool, and then we'll choose dodge. Okay, now we know that we can use our bracket keys to change the size of the brush. So for this one, I want to shrink my brush where it's barely like big enough to just fit inside of the iris. So what we're gonna do is you actually want to go up top here, and these are all of the settings for your dodge tool, because you notice whenever I clicked on the dodge tool, all of this stuff changed up top. So we want to bring our exposure to about 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. Nothing too dramatic. And then we want the exposure is basically how strong it's going to be. If you remember, we did a journal about the word exposure, and exposure just means brightness. So we don't want our dodge tool to make the eyes really bright. We want to kind of be able to paint that in little by little. So that's why I put it on 21%. Then what we want to do is change the range, and we want to select mid-tones, because in the eyes we're going to be not working really in the shadows or the highlights. It's basically sort of in the middle. So with those two things selected, we want to come in here, and actually I might go ahead and switch back to my magnifying glass and zoom in just a little bit more, because when you're working on eyes, you have to kind of zoom in there and work in the detail areas. So now I'm going to go back to my dodge tool, and as you can see with this little preview, that's basically what the tool does. It makes things brighter. So what we want to do is just paint in one brush stroke at a time, and we're just painting the light into the eyes of our portrait here of our subject. And then you can see not only in the color part of the eyes, but also right here you see what looks like a little white spot in the pupil. That is what's called the catch light, and that's basically the eyes reflecting the studio lights that were there when they took the picture. And so that looks pretty good. And then you can also see there's the whites of the eyes, and we want to brighten those up a little bit more as well. Notice that the more you click, you can see the effect coming in little by little. but you won't notice it all right away with just one click. You have to kind of click in there multiple times. If you don't believe me, let's go to the top layer and turn off the visibility and check out before and after. So here's before, after, before, after. So you can see the dodge tool actually brightened things up quite a bit. Check out in comparison to the other eye. So you see the difference. So let's do the same thing on this other side, on this eye. And we'll do kind of the outer area where there's the blue color of the eye, which is the iris. And then we will brighten up the catch light in the pupil, and then we will brighten the whites. And if you notice, I tend to stay more towards the bottom, because if I really brightened up the top, it would look unnatural, because the top is where more of the shadow is. If you notice, your eyes kind of sit back in your head a little ways, and your eyebrow kind of pokes out. Everyone has this, and so that creates a little shadow. So I'm just kind of brightening up the bottom part. And like I had mentioned earlier, it's all about not going too far. We could zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to go back to my magnifying glass, choose the minus, and then zoom out a couple times here. And that's looking pretty good. I'll go back to my dodge tool one more time. I'm going to bracket tool up just to bring the size up a little bit. And I just barely want to brighten where the eyelids are, okay? Just kind of the skin above the eyes. Not too much, just a couple of brush strokes there. We'll go back to our magnifying glass, and instead of minusing out a bunch of times, I'm just going to choose fit screen. And that's looking pretty good. Now remember, guys, I told you that if you go too far, sometimes it can look like the eyes are glowing, and that's a bad thing, because we don't want our subject to look like a zombie or a robot with glowing eyes. And as you can see, I actually ended up going too far. Even though I had my exposure down at 20%, it's very easy to go too far with this tool. So what I'm actually going to do is, you see I've got my my layer that's copied on top, and then my original layer on the bottom. So you can see the before and after. So since I did too strong of an effect on that top layer, what I can actually do is go over here to where it says opacity. This is the opacity of this top layer, and I can bring that down about 50%. And you can see that's pretty much right where we want to be. So if I go back from 50 to 100, you see the difference. So you can kind of split the difference and kind of make this layer see-through, so that you see through to the original, and that way you get kind of not as strong of an effect. And so guys, that's basically it for today's lesson. If you want to continue working on this until tomorrow, make sure you save as a PSD. When you're ready to submit, make sure that you submit a screenshot also showing me your layers. We'll see you next time. God bless.